So I'm going to demo how ES and Commonjs modules can work together or separately with Node.js, and I'm going to use a simple npm workspace monorepo in order to demo that. So I'm not going to sort of dig too much into the monorepo or workspaces stuff, but that's just the basic setup that we'll use to help us demonstrate how the modules kind of work together. So a couple of types of errors that I've seen before, one of which is more confusing than the other. So the simpler one of the two is where you're trying to load an ES module and you basically need to update the package JSON to tell it that it's a module to use ES module stuff. And the other more kind of cryptic messages where you get some sort of error message when you're running a Commonjs project and you're trying to import a module that's ES only. And then it starts talking about dynamic imports and what have you. But we'll kind of get into that a little bit. So I'm going to start off here. I've got an empty folder called module demo, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to run npm init in there, which will just initialize a package JSON file, and in there I'm just going to type workspaces, a couple of square brackets, and then put in a path in there which will be packages/star. So all this means is that I'm going to be able to create a folder now, and within that I'm going to create sub packages, and each one of those packages will be treated as a separate npm package, but we'll get the benefits of running the npm workspaces, principally that the node modules folder can be shared between all packages. So I'm going to create a new directory, and we're going to call that packages, and we're going to call the first one app.cjs. So this is going to be our Commonjs application. So what I can do is go into that Commonjs application. So if I go into there, I can do run npm init -y. That initializes a new package here. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to run npm I. And when I do that, you'll see that we get a node modules folder, but it's not in the app.cjs folder, it's in the top level folder. And you can see we've basically got a symlink to our package here. So in that app.cjs folder, I'm just going to create a new file, and I'm going to call that app.cjs.js. And here I'm going to just say console log app.cjs, and so we should now be able to take that, should be able to run that, and we get app.cjs being printed out. So far so good. What I'd now like to do is create a module that I'm then going to use and basically import into app.cjs. So I'm going to call that mod.cjs. And what I'm going to do is go into that mod.cjs folder. I'm going to run npm init -y. So we're treating that as a new npm module. And I'm going to create a new file in there, and that's going to be called mod.cjs.js. And what we're going to do here is do a module.exports.adder equals a, b, and then we're going to return back a plus b. Let's make that a bit bigger. There we go. Bit bigger text. So module.exports adder a-b returns a plus b. Now, normally, if we've got a module that's going to depend on another module, we would need to kind of run an npm install to get that module. And there are reasons why you'd probably still want to do that. But specifically for this demo, I don't need to actually import. I don't need to install the mod.cjs into the app.cjs package JSON. See, we don't have it there. I don't need to do that. The demo will still work even without doing that. So there are reasons why you would want to do it, but it's not necessary for this demo. So what I'm going to just do here is say const equals require, and that's going to be mod CJS, and then I'm going to go back to here, and in there I'm just going to put adder, and underneath here I'm going to do console.log adder12, and again, so I should be able to run this, and we get an error. Why do we get an error? We get an error here, can't find module, blah blah blah, please verify the package JSON has a valid main entry. So this error here is because of this. The main entry is pointing at index.js, but our file is mod cjs.js. So I can just replace that with mod cjs. And now if I go back to here and I run that same thing again, now we get app cjs and we get 3, which is our adder12. So hopefully kind of happy that is one npm module, app cjs, using an import basically from another npm module. So let's create another package here and call that app ESM, and we'll go into that app ESM folder, and we'll run npm init-y and npm I, which will then kind of make it, which will then symlink it into the node modules folder. And within here, I'm then going to create a new file, and that's going to be called app esm.js, and I'm going to type in here console.log app esm, and that should hopefully work. So we get app esm, so nothing of interest yet. I'm going to create a new directory here called mod esm, and inside mod ESM, I'm going to run npm init and npm I, and that will symlink it into our node modules. Close that down for the moment. And in here, I'm going to create a new file, and that's going to be called mod esm.js. And in here, we're going to do export const mul equals a times b. So you can see here that we're using the export syntax rather than module.exports in order to export a function called mul that takes two what would be hopefully numbers, and it returns the product of those two numbers. So I can go back to here, and here I want to be able to type import from mod ESM. And if I go back to here, I want to be able to type mul, and in here I want to be able to type console.log 23. So now we start to get into the interesting stuff of what happens when we try to run this stuff. So if I try and run that now, we first get an error, and the first error we get is warning to load an ES module, set type module in the package JSON or use the MJS extension. So I think that first error is coming from our app ESM package JSON, and I think to get rid of that, all I need to include is the type value and change that to module, and that I think might get rid of this error. So if we go back to app ESM, we're going to run that, and now we get a different error. Error we get is some blah 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 ESM resolved option blah blah blah, cannot find package blah blah imported from whatever. So I think this might be the same error as the one we saw before, because the main entry point is wrong. So I'm going to change that to am I going to change that? Let's have a go. Let's have a look. Let's see if we change that to that. And now let's see what happens if we try and run that again. Do we get the same error? Ah, yes, right. Okay, so it was that. It was that error. So that previous error was because we didn't have that main entry point set correctly. And now we get a different error again. So now we get syntax error, named export mul not found, requested module, mod ESM is a Commonjs module which may not support things as named exports, whatever. So if I go back to the mod ESM package JSON, and again, same as I did on the package JSON in app ESM, I'll put type module, and now when I go back to app ESM and I run that, it works. So now we've got, hopefully you can see here, we've got a Commonjs app that is importing a Commonjs module, which is here, and that works fine. We have a ESM app here, which is importing a module from an ESM module, and that seems to work fine. So what happens now if we start trying to do different things? So what happens if we try to do import adder from mod CJS, and then if we would try to put after that console.log adder 23, let's change that to 26. What happens if we run that? We run that and it works fine. App ESM 6 and 8. So the app ESM code, so the ESM app is able to use CJS modules and ESM modules without issue. Which kind of makes sense, but I'll come on to why in a moment. So let's go to our app CJS and let's try the same thing here. Let's try const mul equals require ESM. And let's put on here console.log mul23. Let's leave it like that. And now what happens if we try and run that? Now we get a different error. Now we get this error const mul require mod ESM. Require ESM, require of ES module is not supported. Instead, change the require of mod ESM.js to a dynamic import which is available in all Commonjs modules. So what we can see here is that our app ESM, our ESM app is able to load ESM modules and CJS modules without issue, but our Commonjs modules or apps are not able to, they are able to load CJS modules, but they're not able to load ESM modules. And I kind of feel like maybe makes sense given that the ESM stuff is newer, so the Commonjs stuff is therefore legacy, and so the newer stuff supports the older stuff, but the older stuff doesn't as well support the newer stuff. But anyway, there is a way around this, and it's all in this kind of the way this stuff is worded here. So what we need to do here, instead of doing const mul equals require mod ESM, we need to change the require to an import. Now, we can try that, but again, we're going to get an error. And we get mul is not a function. And whilst mul is not a function, whilst that is true, mul is not a function, what we are getting back from that import is something. So if I just change that to mod ESM, we can see straight away that the way the kind of type hint that we're getting from IntelliJ is telling us that this is actually getting a promise back. So if I just kind of put a breakpoint on there, if I put it on breakpoint on there, let's get rid of that, and I just run that code there, we will see that mod ESM is a promise that's pending. So if I stop that and now just wrap this whole thing in a function called main, and I now do that, so effectively given this, we're sticking all of our useful code inside a main function, and now what I want to do here is do const mul equals await mod ESM. So now I guess the question is, do we think this will work? And lo and behold, it does. So now we can use our CJS module, and that works. We can also import ESM modules in our Commonjs code, but it's a little bit of a hack, because what we actually get back is a promise, and we need to await the promise before we can actually use the things that we're importing. So that's basically how Commonjs and ESM code modules kind of work together, and how you kind of get around. So it's not complicated, but unless, I kind of feel like sometimes unless you just kind of stop and work these things through simply, it can get a bit confusing as to what's happened. The example I came across a while ago was working on a Commonjs package that's using Mocha and Chai is the testing and the assertion framework. Chai has recently changed to a ESM only module, and that all of a sudden couldn't import the latest version. So, and it was all very confusing what was going on. But going through it like this, I think really kind of just helps to show what's going on and how the ESM Commonjs stuff work together, and how you can mix and match what you need. So I hope that was helpful.